Hi, everyone. Hi, Dave. How are you doing?
I am excellent, Diana. Thanks for having me on your show.
Thanks for coming on. Welcome, everyone, to On the Flip Side. Today, our guest speaker is Dave Dubeau. I'm so happy to have him on. We are going to be talking about more eyes, more money, how to increase your visibility and raise private money. I'm so excited for this topic. We have On the Flip Side every Monday, and we do the first Monday of every month we go mindset, and then the rest of the Mondays it's all about real estate. So thank you so much for coming on, and let's get started. So what does this even mean?
What does getting more eyeballs and raising your visibility to raise more capital mean? Well, you know what, Diana, you're probably very familiar with this. In order to get somebody to invest a significant amount of money with you, and I'm talking about $50,000, $100,000, $200,000 in your real estate deals, that person needs to know you, like you, and trust you with their money. Would you agree with that?
100%.
Yeah.
Completely
So,
agree.
so I've got this whole process I call the money partner formula, and it's all about, attracting investors and raising capital for your deals. But one of the really important parts of that three-part thing, know, like, and trust, is the trust factor. And in order for us to kind of boost our credibility, there are several different things that we can do to make that happen. And I've kind of come up with 8 different ways that have worked really well for me, have worked really well for a lot of our clients as well. And we can chat about those today if you'd like.
Yeah, that'd be great. So what would you say? I guess let's start with the number one. What's the first thing to help people to start building their
Well,
trust?
yeah, well, there's lots of things that we can do. Let's start with the hardest ones first, and then we'll
Okay,
move down to the easiest ones. Does that sound good?
sounds good.
All right. So as you can see behind me there, Diana, I've got a whole bunch of books on my bookshelf that I have written. So one of the quickest ways to be seen as an authority is to be an author. It's to write a book. So this is something that it's not that I love writing books. I don't particularly love writing books, but I do love the effect being an author has. So, when you wrote a book about something, and so for the sake of our listeners and the people that are watching this today, it's all about real estate investing. If you were to write a book about your particular flavor of real estate investing, the market that you're investing in. So for example, Diana, remind me, what is your main strategy in your main market?
So my main strategy is burrs and flips.
Okay, so you kind of got 2 different strategies there, but they are connected.
Yeah.
So is there kind of one
So,
terminology we use for both of those?
so the connection would really be any types of properties that have value add. So I like to renovate properties.
Exactly. All right. So if I were you and that was the main focus, then I would think about writing a book, something along the lines of something like this, how to make money in value add real estate investing. What's your main market that you're doing this in, Diana?
In Ontario or in the
In Ontario.
GTA, even smaller.
GTA? Yeah, so there you go. How to make money doing value add real estate investing in the GTA. Very, very specific book, but that is going to show that you are an expert, that you're a specialist. And here's the thing. My definition of a book, Diana, I really don't, I mean, a bunch of mine are Amazon bestsellers, and that's great. But really, a book is a business card on steroids. So instead of when you're out networking and speaking and doing things, instead of giving people a business card, which is fine, if you give them a copy of your book and if you sign it for them, that's the wow factor. Whether they read your book or not, as long as you got your smiling face on it, as long as you got your contact information on there, that does the trick. And people don't throw books away. So being an author is a great way to be raising your profile and being seen as an authority. Now, it's not the only way, thank goodness, because writing books a pain in the butt. It's a lot of work. It can be very, very expensive. In fact, these kind of books, if you work with the companies that help you become an Amazon bestseller and they edit everything and help you write it and pretty covers and all that, this can be like 25 grand to get one of these done. But again, even if that just got you one investor, and it's going to get you a lot more than that, it would definitely be worthwhile. But there are lots of other things that you can do as well. But does that answer the question about the books?
Yeah, and actually one more. So at what level then of investing would you start thinking about writing a book?
That's a really good question. A lot of people think that they need to have a ton of deals and a ton of experience under their belt to write a book. But it reminds me of a fun story. Years and years ago, my good friend Ken Beaton was quite a well-known real estate investor, real estate educator in his area. And he was, doing multifamily properties and this kind of stuff. And he was complaining to me one day. He's going, Dave, I'm kind of ticked off, and what's going on? And it was an ego thing, right? And there was a young upstart whippersnapper in his area that had just kind of leapfrogged over Ken in as far as like getting booked on shows and speaking at real estate investment clubs and all this kind of stuff. And it kind of bruised Ken's ego, and I get it, right? And he says, what really ticks me off is I taught this kid how to do what he's doing for real estate investor. Now people see him as more of an expert than me. I said, well, Ken, how did this happen? What's going on? So, well, he wrote a book. I go, okay. So guess what the solution is for you, Ken? Well, he goes, what? Write a book, for crying out loud. So he actually co-authored a book. That was my second or third or fourth book in creative real estate investing for Canadians. And then bang, there he goes. Ked's now got his book. Now he's back on track. But here was the lesson. This was somebody who was much less experienced, much less of an expert than Ken was. But because they had a book, they were automatically elevated to that level. So at what point should you or could you be doing a book? It's whenever you're comfortable to do that. So I think, yes, you definitely you don't want to fake it till you make it. You want to know what you're talking about, but you don't have to have tons and tons of experience. Here's a great example. One of my books was all about rent-to-own real estate investing. So I'd actually only done 3 or 4 deals at the time that I wrote that book, but I had enough experience under my belt. I knew what I was talking about, but that leapfrogged me over people who had done hundreds of deals, but didn't have the book. I became positioned as that authority in that space. So
yeah,
you don't have to
that's
wait.
great advice, because it can even be, I'm sure, even if you want to go even like if someone does really want to write a book and really enjoy that process, I'm sure even, for example, their experiences and like their learning experiences on their projects, and that could even be your very first project and you want to just write about it or something. So I think that's a great way of putting it, because it does seem scary and daunting. For the ones that don't like to write, I think it's very scary and daunting. But for those that may like to write, and maybe the other way around, don't have that much experience, but at least they have something and they want to write about their experience.
Well, here's what I would actually recommend, Diana. This is after 8 or 9 books or however many I've got now. Nowadays, when I write a book, it is much more strategic. I'm thinking ahead. So for example, this is a book I wrote several years ago that is designed to be given to a potential money partner, right? So it's called No Sweat Real Estate Investing. And it basically talks about all of the big benefits of real estate as investment class. It kind of walks through the process of being an active investor like you are, Diana, but it also positions it as, hell, this is a hell of a lot of work. It's really a pain in the butt to get this level of expertise. It might just be smarter and easier for you to partner with the smart person that wrote this book and invest in their deals with them. Does that make sense? So again, in your example, if I were doing the book on, how to do value add properties in the GTA, it would really depend on, hey, what are you trying to accomplish with this? Are you looking to bring on investor partners? Are you looking to position yourself as the value add expert in that area? Are you looking, what is your number one goal with that book? And then you write it on purpose. And then here's another big tip, Diana. I don't like writing either. Most people hate writing. So here's the big tip. Here's the big takeaway for folks here. You don't have to write it. You don't have to be the one that actually writes it. The way I do books now is I do outline what I want to talk about in the book. So what's the big idea? What's the book all about? Then I come up with what are the sub ideas there? What are all the chapters going to be for this book? Then I break down each chapter into 5 to 7 bullet points that I want to, write about in that chapter. So then I've got this whole outline. And then here's the trick, Diana. Jump on a call, a Zoom call, something like this with a friend of yours, and have them ask you those questions. Have them walk through that outline with you. And then you talk about it. That's all you have to do. You already know your stuff. So you just talk about it. You talk about your experience. You talk about your deals. You talk about examples. And then you record all of that. And nowadays there's all sorts of fancy smashy software out there that can transcribe this stuff for you for next to nothing, or if not free. Get it transcribed. And then you can get a professional writer to clean it up, to polish it up, to edit it up, and make it look and sound good. It's your book, it's your ideas, it's your content, but you don't have to be the one who actually writes it. And hell, these days with artificial intelligence and all that kind of stuff, you could transcribe it, you could take it chunk by chunk and get AI to turn that into a very, very well-written book that way. So you don't have to write it yourself.
Yeah, that's a very good tip. Just even what you're saying, have them ask the questions, because it is true. I feel like, especially when you're doing it informally that way, where you're just chit-chatting back and forth, I feel like it actually flows the best compared to when you're thinking about it. You get very critical about the words you're using or anything like that. Or at least I think myself, I just become more critical if I'm actually writing something down or thinking about it. Whereas if you're just naturally speaking to someone, you'll just say it, at least the first go around, it'll go out the way you say it. And then maybe think about it, or like that, give it to someone else.
Definitely give it to somebody else. Most of us suck as writers. You don't need to do it. But one big thing I did learn over the years, Diana, and not that I want to spend much more time on books, but people do judge a book by its cover. So invest a few bucks. Don't do this yourself. Don't go on Canva and try and figure it out. Get a professional to create the book cover for you. That will make a big, big difference. And then also, I highly recommend print out physical copies of your book. Ebooks are fine. They're great. Have an ebook version of your book, put that up on your website, but have physical copies that you're not really trying to sell. You can put it up on Amazon if you want, but you're not going to make any money selling a book. You really aren't. You're going to make your money giving your book away to your ideal prospect, whatever that looks like. So in our case, we're trying to raise capital, so we'd be giving it to prospective investors. But I know lots of other people, for example, in your situation where you're doing birds and you're doing flips, are you finding a lot of off-market deals?
Yeah, I'm, to be honest, all over the place. I'm like, wherever there's a deal, so it can be
good.
On
yeah,
market.
so I know some guys that are very strategic with this, Diana, and they are finding properties from seniors. So they're finding seniors that are downsizing, need to go into, long-term care or whatever. And they've created a book all around kind of that, with the twist on real estate, that they give to those people's kids. So they kind of bypass things, and it's a whole book there. And at the end of the day, their whole goal is to be able to get in there and buy the property at a low enough price that they can turn it around and profit from it. So there's different. You got to be very, very strategic with your book, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, 100%. So now, what would you say would be the next tip of how to give yourself more credibility?
Well, my next tip would be to do exactly what you're doing right now, Diana, which is to have your own platform. And platforms can come in the way of a variety of different things. So you've got your Flipside show, which you broadcast live in your Facebook group. So you actually got two platforms there. You got your Facebook group. That's one platform. You've got thousands of people that are part of your group, and you're kind of the leader of that group. That's an awesome platform. But then you also have the show, which you record. Do you turn this into a podcast as well?
It goes into YouTube.
Yeah. Okay. So it goes live on Facebook Live, and you've also got your YouTube channel. So now you've got those two different platforms where you are being seen as an authority, right? Whether you're talking about mindset, whether you're talking about what you do with value add properties, whether you're interviewing somebody like myself, you are positioned as the expert because you're gathering these resources for your followers. So yeah, YouTube channel is great. The Facebook group is great. Some other ideas that you might want to do, because you're already doing this as a YouTube, just take the audio and turn it into a podcast, right? So there's another platform you could have. Another thing people can do is, a meetup group about real estate investing is a platform, right? If that's your group, it is your platform. So not super easy to do, not that difficult once you got it up and running. But again, very, very good idea if you have the bandwidth to do it.
100%, completely agree. And it is funny actually that you say that at the beginning, it's very hard, but I feel like it very quickly just starts rolling and it gets it actually, I feel like it's quite easy. I feel like maybe, I don't know, a month in or something, all of a sudden, I guess you get used to that routine and then it's just easy to get it going.
Well, I think you're very, very sharp too as well, Diana, because you've got a good team around you. So you're very good at delegating tasks to different assistants. Same thing with me. So for my podcast, basically, my number one job is to show up and remember to press record. Everything else after that kind of gets taken care of. I've just started a new YouTube channel myself recently, and the methodology I'm following is very, very intense. So basically it involves putting out 5 videos a week, Monday through Friday. So it's 20 videos a month. And there's no way I'm going to do that onesie twosies. So I batch them up and I crank out 20 a month. So that's a new thing. And like you say, at the beginning, it's a hassle. We're kind of 4 months into producing these. So now, I've got the team in place for filming that. I've got the person in place for editing that. I got another person in place for doing the thumbnails. So now, I'm still too involved with that, with, doing all the descriptions and all that kind of stuff. So I got to get that offloaded, but little by little, you dial it in. So yeah, get a good team to help you out there.
Yeah, 100%, completely agree.
Yeah.
And so what would be, so after that, what would you recommend?
Well, some other tips here. Public speaking is always awesome, which we're kind of doing here, but I'm talking more like, in your area, for example, Diana, there are a ton of real estate investment clubs and real estate meetups and that sort of thing. So what you could do, what your listeners and followers could do, is get involved and actually go speak at some of these meetings. And they're usually looking for good speakers. They usually got the same people that are kind of coming around over and over again. So if you can come in with something slightly different and do that, that is a huge way to be seen as an authority, because we've all heard that public speaking's one of the top fears most people have, is standing up and speaking in public. So quick tip, if you're one of the people that suffer from that, just go join Toastmasters. And I'm serious. You get a month and a half into Toastmasters, you'll be perfectly ready to go do a short presentation at your local real estate investment club. I've seen people that are absolutely petrified of talking to more than 2 people take a month of Toastmaster training and just be completely transformed. So that's made a huge difference in my professional life. It'll make a big difference for you as well. What are your thoughts on that, Diana?
I think that is amazing. That's a great point. But I actually wanted to ask you a question. That's lumped in with the shows, right? You take that, or is
kind
that
of like right now we are public speaking, but it sure doesn't feel like it. Like all I see is you. I don't see all the people that might be watching this in Facebook land. I don't see. So not really. It's more of public speaking
is harder, right?
Yeah,
I was like, you made
it is
the next one, and I was just kind of like, I would be terrified to speak in front of a group of people.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, well, hey, you'd be natural at this. And here's a couple of tricks. Here's a couple of tricks that I've learned, and I've had the pleasure of speaking in front of dozens of people and hundreds of people and thousands of people. And I'll be honest with you, I'm kind of an introvert by nature. But the beautiful thing about public speaking is it gets people coming to you instead of you having to approach them. So,
Mhm.
and I can't say enough for Toastmasters training. It doesn't cost hardly anything. It's very, very inexpensive.
Mhm.
And it's just a group of people that are super supportive, and they've got an amazing methodology of taking completely tongue-tied introverts and making them feel comfortable speaking in public, because they've got a whole process for doing that. So it
Mhm.
it really is a good thing to do. And for you, I think it would be a really good natural next step. You're very here's the trick, Diana. You don't need to be anything different than what you are right now, right? You're on your show, you're speaking to people. It's the same thing when you're in front of a group. The only difference is you're seeing all their faces up front in person, right?
Yeah, that's
So
the problem, seeing their faces.
it's
They can
easier.
actually give me
It's
their
easier
input.
being kind of a, we almost feel like we're anonymous when we're online, but at the end of the day, you've got hundreds, if not thousands of people. So you think about that. I'm not sure. I mean, I think you've got a couple of thousand people in your Facebook group. When this goes on live, they aren't all watching it all at the same time, but cumulatively, you're getting hundreds, if not thousands of views on your content. What's
Mhm.
the difference between that and going and speaking in front of a small group of 25 or 50 people at a real estate investment club, right? You're actually, your reach is much bigger doing it this way.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
So I feel like these are all very hard things that you've said. Does the next one get easier?
Oh,
Because I feel
you
like,
want us to start getting, yeah, it's going to get
well,
easier.
I'm just thinking, especially for, let's say, um, maybe more newer investors. 'Cause I feel like for more experienced investors, these are definitely things to get into. Is there things for people that that are a little easier?
Yeah, for sure. Okay, we'll get into these ones now. So a real easy one is just the way you present yourself personally, right? So especially if you're out and about, if you're going to these real estate investment club meetings as a participant, if you're talking with people about investing, just dress up a little bit. Dress up business casual. You don't have to go over the top, but guys, if you're going to be, meeting with somebody and talking about money, put on a blazer, look professional. Ladies, I won't try and give anybody any advice. I don't know anything about women's fashion, but you know what I mean? Business casual. So look professional. Another idea would be, what do you say when you're out and about and say you're at a networking type thing and somebody says, "Hey, Diana, what do you do?" Right? That's that famous question. What do you do? And then there's all these thoughts about, how do you answer that question? Most of us suck at this. It's, well, hey, you know what? I'm a plumber during the day, and then I kind of invested in real estate part-time and blah, blah, blah. And the other person's bored senseless, right? We all have a very boring answer typically to that question. What do you do? Now, on the flip side, oh, that's the name of your show. On the flip side of that,
Worked out very well.
it did work out. I didn't even plan that. Is we've got these things that are called elevator pitches or 30-second commercials. Have you heard of those?
Yes, yes.
So back in the day, I used to teach and train people about this, and I always kind of felt kind of yucky because, quite frankly, I had tried it myself and it didn't work very well, and it just felt weird. And I remember back when I was doing rent-own deals, I had this elevator pitch dialed in, and I used it a few times, and I thought it was pretty slick. And everybody else who was in elevator pitch land thought it was pretty good too, but it just sounded stilted. It sounded unnatural because, well, let's see if I can remember it. It's been like a dozen years, but go ahead and shoot me the question. What do you do, Dave?
What do you do, Dave?
Well, thanks for asking, Diana. I help deserving local families get into the home of their dreams years earlier than they could on their own, while at the same time helping my investor partners and myself get an above average return on our money backed by a solid tangible asset, real property. How about you? What do you do? But so as far as, I haven't done that for a long time, but as
I
far
was
as
gonna say you did very well I was just thinking of mine. I was like, oh man, I haven't done mine in a while. I think I completely forgot it.
yeah, and you know why? Because they're weird, right? Nobody talks that way. Nobody in real life talks that way. Everybody's got their boring answer to what do you do? So
Mhm.
what can we do that doesn't sound so much like a commercial, but is not as boring as I'm a real estate investor, right? So the person I learned this tip from, a lady named Julie Broad, very, very sharp real estate investor. She used to teach and train and stuff. And anyhow, she got sick and tired of doing her 30-second commercial. And then one time she just came up with this and somebody said, "Hey, Julie, what do you do?" And she said, "I collect houses."
Mhm.
That was it. "I collect houses." The other
Yeah,
person,
interesting.
what do you mean you collect houses? What do you mean, porcelain houses you got up on the wall, or, ceramic? What it creates the curiosity. It
Mhm.
starts the conversation, right? So,
Mhm.
don't swipe Julie's, but come up with your own little catchy one. Somebody was, I was doing a presentation and somebody said, she lives overseas and she kind of does, she's a nomad kind of thing. And her answer is, what is she? "I buy beaches." What do you mean you buy like, that's a beautiful one. It just gets that curiosity going. So you're going to have to come up with your own, but come up with something that just kind of hooks, gets people's curiosity going, and gets the conversation going. Right. So that's an
I
easy
can
one.
also give another tip for that
Yeah.
I personally really liked was actually if you do have your 30-second pitch, what I was told is like remember keywords, the most important keywords, and it's okay if it changes. And so you don't have to like fully have it memorized because it is true. I also had that feeling of, and maybe that's why I don't have it memorized because I just didn't really like it. It just sounded too sales pitchy or
Yeah.
scripty or something. And so I remember that they told me that as long as you remember the key important words in it, and then you just kind of phrase it in the way you want. And that's something I really liked.
Yeah. No, I like that idea. And again, for me, it's all about, how do we create curiosity and get the
Mhm.
other person asking us
The
to find
question.
out more. Then, so it's almost like a two-step thing. So it's like,
Yeah.
how do you grab them with something short and punchy? And then when they say, "Hey, Deanna, tell me more," then that's when that kind of more, that doesn't have to be polished, but that more conversational one comes into play. So yeah,
Mhm. Yeah,
good
I
points. Good
completely
points.
agree.
Another quick tip for people: business cards. What you leave people behind with. So again, if you're not going to write a book, that's fine. Most people don't. At least have a really sharp business card. So this is the kind that I have. It is a very, very robust black plastic card with gold foil inlays. So these cards are not cheap. In fact, I have to get these printed in Britain. They're hand inlaid with gold foil, and they cost like $1.50 each or something crazy like that. But I tell you what, when you give somebody a really good business card, they're going to feel guilty about throwing it away, right? So they hold on and they go, "Crap, wow, that's a nice card." So you want to give them a card that stands out, especially if you're trying to raise capital. You don't want to come across as cheap and cheesy. So you don't want, the old dot matrix do at home kind of cards that you pull out and you can see the perforations around the edges. Get some classy cards. Try not to, a lot of people like to put their faces on the cards, but then you look like a real estate agent. Nothing wrong with real estate agents if that's your business. But if you're a real estate investor and you got your face on your card, people are going to assume that you're a realtor and just throw it in the trash with all the other realtor cards, right? So
Mhm.
something that really pops out and stays with people.
Yeah. And as
No,
you said for
go
the
ahead.
picture, it's
Yeah.
very true about even just saying you're a real estate investor, people get confused and think, oh, you mean like a realtor? So I feel like even more of a reason to like make sure you try to divide that distinction as much as you can in your business card.
Yeah, and that's why I don't like to say real estate investor. I like to say real estate entrepreneur. And then
Mm.
that itself sometimes gets questioned. What's a real estate entrepreneur? What does that mean? Right. So different language. Yep. But yeah, definitely you want to stand out there. Another
Mhm.
quick tip, uh, good headshots, good photographs. So, and then update them on a quasi regular basis, right? So this is one thing that realtors tend to do very, very well. They usually have very nice headshots and they got them on their business cards and all over the place. Well, same thing for us, right? If we're talking about boosting our credibility, boosting our brand, our personal brand, you want to go and invest in some really good professional headshots, full body shots, tighter shots, a variety of different shots. And then quick tip is make sure that you've got it on a so they can be pulled out from the background, so that you've got a transparent background. That way you can put kind of like, I think the pictures you've got in the back there on your slide, you can superimpose that over top of different things, either on your, if you're doing a pitch deck for potential investors, your website, your presentations, these kind of things, you can use these pictures on different things.
Yeah, great points.
Yeah.
Any other easy ones?
Well, I do. The last one that I highly recommend, and this is super easy for people, is to get free exposure using OPM. You know what OPM stands for, Diana?
Yes, other people's money.
Yes, but I'm going to put a little twist on it. For my version of it today, OPM stands for other people's media. Other people's media, right? So, for example, you've gone to all the time, trouble, and expense of creating your own platform, right, Dana? And now it's running smoothly. But at the beginning, that was a lot of work, and it was a nerve-wracking thing. And you got it all set up. So a quick shortcut is, instead of creating your own platform, figure out a way to get exposure on other people's platforms. So, lots of different things, ways that you can do this. You can, just like you and I are doing right now. So we're doing a Facebook Live thing, which is going to your Facebook group, and it's going to your YouTube channel. That's great. You can get interviewed on people's podcasts. That's one of my favorite things to do as well. And recently, just last year, I put a lot of focus on this. And I actually got booked on over 100 last time I counted, over 170 different shows.
Oh,
and
wow.
It really helps boost your credibility, boost your visibility by getting interviewed by somebody else. It really helps to, and here's the trick. It's a good way to kind of expand your reach, but it's also a really good way to raise your credibility in the eyes of the people who already know you. So this is the big tip that I always have for our clients is, hey, don't worry so much about how many downloads or how many views that's going to get on that person's platform or that person's channel. Look at how can you leverage your interview to put that in front of your people, right? Because we can talk about how great we are and how smart we are and how successful we are till we're blue in the face. But if somebody else interviews you, that automatically elevates you to that expert status. Does that make sense, Diana? So what we always tell people, like, for example, these days, I just had you on my show recently. So we do a lot of interviews with real estate investors on my podcast. And I always recommend to them, hey, take that interview. That's fine. You're going to get exposure to thousands of people in my audience. That's great. But also what I would recommend is take the episode that we've done together and you let your followers, your friends, your connections, your, Facebook friends or whatever it is, know that you've been interviewed on somebody else's show, because that's going to boost your credibility in their eyes. Does that make sense?
100%.
Yeah.
And so is there any other one, or did we cover all from both sides?
Oh, I think we had 8 of them there. Yeah. So we talked about the book. We talked about the building your own platform, public speaking, dressing the part. We talked about your 30-second commercial, leaving sharp looking business cards. We talked about having professional images done. And then, yeah, my last big tip for people is a really good shortcut is getting exposure on other people's media. And then like we were talking about earlier, Diana, it's a lot easier than public speaking, right? Because you're really just having a conversation with the host. It doesn't feel like this big scary thing, right? And it's just usually just like we're doing right now on Zoom. So if you're used to doing any Zoom kind of stuff, it's a piece of cake, and it's a lot of fun.
100%. And so for now that we've spoken about these different things that will help us be more visible.
Yeah.
And I mean, give more credibility too. How as you as a person though, make yourself or give yourself confidence to be able to raise the money? Because I feel like people find raising money a very scary and daunting thing.
Yeah.
And I feel like the confidence in just that part is also hard. Because even if you do all these things that you've suggested, I feel like it still comes down to you believing that you can actually raise the money or believing in the deal, or what are your views on that?
Oh, most definitely. Yeah, that's a huge part here. And here's what it's a challenge a lot of people have, Diane. And this is kind of what we do in my main business is we help what I call mom and pop real estate investors really tap into their networks and raise private capital for their deals. And a lot of people are coming at it with that thought is I'm not worthy. I'm not ready. Why would anybody invest with little old me? What happens if I lose their money? All of these things that are coming into mind, which, it is good to have some of that stuff in your mind. But here's what I always show people. Number one, if you've got even just one successful real estate deal under your belt, statistically speaking, you are ahead of 95% of the general population. And here's the challenge, Diana. You and I hang out with all these real estate investor rock stars that have done hundreds or thousands of deals. And so do and your listeners are watching that kind of stuff. And they think, oh, I have to be at that level before I'm worthy. No, you don't, right? It's kind of like, do you remember when you were a little kid, Diana? Do you remember when you were in kindergarten?
Mm-hmm.
You remember that by any chance?
Yeah, I do actually.
Believe it or not, I still remember kindergarten. That was a lot longer for me than it was for you. But I remember in kindergarten, there I was, this little 5-year-old kid, and the kids that were in grade 2 or 3 seemed like big kids. You know what I mean? Those 7 and 8-year-olds seemed like really big kids. They seemed like they had it all together. They could print their names. They could add and subtract. They could tie their own shoes. They didn't have to go down for nappy time. They seemed like they had it all together, but really they don't. They didn't. But compared to me, they did. So that same idea for us. If you've got one successful deal under your belt, compared to all of your friends, family members, coworkers, business associates who've never done a deal, you know what you're doing, right? So you don't have to wait until you've got decades of experience or hundreds of deals on your belt. You can get started. The other thing is, it's not a matter of selling anybody into doing a deal with you. It's not a matter of pressuring people or convincing anybody to give you money. It's all a matter. It's a matter of, in my opinion, it's a matter of putting it out there, letting people know what you're doing, creating curiosity, getting them to put up their hand and say, hey, Diana, tell me more about your deals. And then you have a very relaxed conversation about it. You walk them through. I highly recommend you have a good pitch deck or an investor presentation that you walk people through, but you walk them through it, and you show them the pros, of course, the big benefits. You also show them the negative sides, the downsides. There's always a downside to anything, right? So don't try and pretend there isn't one, but show them what it is, but also show what you're going to do to minimize that, and show them what the opportunity is. So show them why investing in a value add real estate deal is so much better than them having their money in a savings account under the mattress in mutual funds, whatever it is that they're doing in crypto, right? Show them why real estate is a superior choice. And then show them what you're doing in real estate. Show them a little bit about your track record. If you got that one deal under your belt, say, hey, here's the kind of deals we do. Here's a deal that I did. And here's how it worked out, right? Show them what you're doing. And then it's just a matter of, does this look like it's a good fit for you? If it's yes, great. If it's no, that's fine too. Time and circumstances might change their mind, but just always keep it going. The other big idea here, Diana, is that I had to learn this the hard way. All of the gurus say, find a good deal and the money will find you. And I say bullshit. I'd like to smack whoever said that in the face, right? Whoever came up with that expression, I would like to smack them, because it's only true if you've already built a platform. It's only true if you've already got a bunch of followers waiting for your deal. But if you're starting from scratch and you got a deal on the go, and then you're trying to raise capital for it, you're going to come across as desperate and needy. And that's where a lot of people are really freaked out about raising capital is they think, oh, I got to have a deal to show people, but then they get a deal and now they're desperate because they need the cash, and that desperation oozes from them. And even if it's a really good deal, that's going to turn people off. Does that make sense? Have you ever kind of felt that from somebody?
Yes, 100%. And I could even say that I believe exactly what you say. And I think, for example, these times right now, I think even more emphasizes exactly what you're saying. Because I did feel, to be honest, like 2 years ago, money was like just like falling into people's lap. It was just like being thrown at you. I think especially now in these times, you really have to have a lot of confidence in what you say. You really have to like have a great deal or be able to speak to it very well and understand it really well to be able to actually, to get people that get interested in the deal.
Well, yeah. So that's my whole goal is let's get your investor ducks in a line first. Let's get people who have given you what we might call soft or medium commitments. In our case, what we always recommend is get somebody to sign off on an expression of interest. They don't have to cut you a check for $100,000, but at least they've signed off that they're interested in investing with you. And then you go find the deals. And then when you got the deal, instead of trying to desperately go after everybody, you go after that small group of people and say, hey, you guys, I've got a hot deal on the go. First come, first serve. Who's interested, right? Completely different approach versus wait until you got the deal, then scramble for the cash, right? So that makes a huge difference. Other tips I've got for folks around raising capital, especially if you're just getting started, I would highly recommend that you focus on your existing network of connections, your friends, your family members, your coworkers, business associates, people from, parent-teacher association, people from church. You've got that pre-existing relationship with these people, right? Because again, know, like, and trust. If you go after that group of people, they already know you. They already like you. To a certain degree, they trust you, maybe not with $100,000 yet, but that's a lot easier than starting from scratch. So what we always recommend is, hey, come up with a target group of your ideal prospective investors. Break the ice with them first. Don't just run in and start talking business. We do a very simple 3-step email warm-up campaign that works beautifully to do that. Warm them up first, and then create this curiosity through your marketing. I think you do a great job with this, Diana. So it's this, I call investor marketing constant, consistent, edutaining communication. Mm-hmm. So it's a little bit educational and hopefully a little bit entertaining. Because the other thing we have to do is we have to remember that most of our friends and family members and all people in our network outside of real estate are not into real estate investing. So if you start talking jargon with them like NOI and IRRs and cap rates and all this kind of smart stuff that we learned as real estate investors, we're going to make them feel dumb and they're not going to invest with us. We need to meet them where they're at. We need to simplify it. We need it to bring it down to what I call a Reader's Digest level. So if you remember, Reader's Digest it's a magazine. It's written for grownups, but it's written at a 13-year-old reading comprehension level. Same thing for our communications. Same thing for our pitch deck. Keep it super, super simple so that it's easy for people to understand what's in it for them. Is that helpful?
Yes, very, very helpful. And I feel like adding on to that a little bit is also like that allowing them to ask the questions, which I'm assuming that's also what the purpose of keeping it simple is, because I feel that if they ask the questions, then you can answer them, and because I feel like if you put everything on your pitch deck, because I've seen people that put like everything, and I think that confuses them, like confuses the money people a lot. Where it's just
oh
like,
God, and they put everything, and they
basics.
put charts and graphs and spreadsheets in there and just data, right?
Yeah.
Well, here's something that I found that's kind of interesting. It ties in with that, Diana, is sometimes when you're talking with a non-real estate person, like an average person, about investing in a deal, they might not even know the right kind of questions to ask. Right? Have you ever found that you think they really should? So here's a little trick that I like to do before I even start showing them the presentation. I do something like this, Diana. Is it okay if we role play something? So I want you to erase all of your years of real estate investing experiences. Just pretend you're a normal human being, not a real estate weirdo like we are now, right? You're just a normal person. So before I get into doing the presentation, I'll do something like this. Well, hey, Diana, as we're going through this presentation, chances are you're going to have some questions for me. You're going to probably want to know, why do I like to invest in these, value add properties in the GTA? What is a value add property? You might not even be quite sure exactly what that is. You probably want to know is, what's the time frame? If I were to invest with you, how long would my money be involved in this deal? What are the pros and what are the cons to this kind of deal? What do I need to bring to the table? What's the minimum investment involved in this kind of deal? And what kind of expectations should I have out of this whole thing? So in order to make sure that this is a good fit for you, are you comfortable asking me those kind of questions, Diana?
Yeah, definitely would be interested.
Okay. So then what I've done is I've kind of planted the seed of the kind of questions you should be asking me ahead of time. And then coincidentally, as I'm going through my presentation, those questions are getting answered. So as we get to that slide, I've already piqued your curiosity and you're thinking, yeah, you know what? I was wondering about that. Well, guess what? No, you weren't. You weren't wondering about that until I planted that seed in your mind. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I love that approach. And it's also just nice because I think which is basically what you said, but you're priming them. It's just giving you the summary of basically what's going to be talked about anyways too, which is kind of nice. I know in the corporate world, you do the same thing, or even actually, it's funny you said that. I didn't know other people did the same thing too, because there's other mentors I get. I mean, I guess everyone teaches these things, but yeah, it's like, you have, I mean, we use different terms. I don't want to say, but you have your intro, and it's usually a nice summary to explain what's going to be talked about, which I love.
Exactly.
It's a nice way, and something that other people have told me is also, and I find this too. Like I was gonna say, in the corporate world, is it kind of sets the mood for like this is a business talk, and I just find that like a great way of getting that conversation really focused and dialed in. To be honest.
Well, yeah, exactly. Then another big tip for people as well is, in coming from the corporate world and coming from a bit of a sales experience background, what do you think are like, what's the worst answer we can get at the end of a presentation?
It would probably be, thank you, I'll get back to you later.
Exactly, right? How many times have we had that? Oh, that's great, Dana. Yeah, I love this. Let me think it over and then I'll get back to you, right? And here's the challenge, you guys. How often does that actually happen? Doesn't happen very often. Usually that's just a polite no. But the challenge is they've left a little glimmer of hope in our minds. So we end up chasing after these people. And then that's just terrible positioning. If you're just constantly chasing, that's a bad way to be coming across. So what I like to do, and I did not come up with this, God, I can't remember who did, but it's somebody way smarter than me. It's called an upfront agreement. So at the beginning of the presentation, what we do is we say, hey, Diana, at the end of our presentation here today, one of two things is going to happen. Either I'll go through the whole program and I'll show you everything, exactly what it's all about, what the pros and cons are, what's in it for you. And for whatever reason, at the end of the conversation, you might see that this really is not a good fit for you at this time, in which case I want you to feel perfectly comfortable letting me know that. Does that make sense, Diana? Or on the other hand, we go through the whole thing and we see that, yes, this is a good fit. And you're going to want to see what the next steps are. And don't worry, I'm not going to ask you to cut me a check for $100,000 today. We'll just get the ball going, right? Does that make sense? So Diana, at the end of our conversation today, are you comfortable either letting me know, yes, I want to see what the next steps are and move ahead, or no, this is not a good fit for me.
Yes, that's a great thing, actually. So, okay, so you guys use the same terminology. Yeah, I was gonna say, because that whole section usually of asking the questions and then making sure they feel comfortable. Yeah, I've heard it being called the upfront contract.
Exactly.
Yeah, so and like that, I like it because especially what you're saying, specifically ask them if they feel comfortable in saying or letting them know it's okay to say no is basically what you're getting at.
Yeah.
Really helps them to kind of relax because they're like, oh, it's allowed.
Exactly. And not only is it allowed, I want it. I don't want a, hey, let me think it over kind of thing. And if we
Or
get to the end of
you're
the
thinking same
conversation,
thing, like not wasting anyone's time, right? It's just like,
yeah,
oh, if you're not interested, great, let's like finish, like just like cut it now and let me know. We can move on.
we'll still be friends, right? We'll still be friends. No problem there. It's just, I won't chase after you and hassle you or anything like that. It's good to know right up front. Yeah.
Yeah, I love it. That one's I think that's, to be honest, like my favorite part of is the upfront contract. Because exactly what you're saying, like it just is like your quick to say agenda of what's happening of the day and giving them that comfort of it's okay to let me to say no to me. I feel like that's really the purpose, even though you're saying yes or no, it's really just it's okay that you say
Giving
no.
them permission. Exactly. Exactly. Especially if you're dealing with Canadians, we're so damn polite. We don't want to hurt anybody's feelings. Right. So that's, you tend to string people along. You don't mean to, but you tend to. Yeah. Works really well.
100%. Thank you so much. Any final words or anything that you like to let our audience know? My audience?
Yeah, I would. So, Diana, is it okay? I had you on my podcast. You are a wonderful guest, and your episode is going to be coming out in the next few weeks. Would it be all right if I invited some of your followers, some of your listeners to be guests on my podcast as well?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
Yeah. So, first of all, it's been a little while now, but did you find the guest experience pretty easy, or was it super nerve-wracking for you?
Oh, no. It was very easy, very relaxing to talk to even now. Make it
Exactly. So I
relax.
think, yeah, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to make my podcast. I've been doing the whole podcast thing for, going on 5 years now. We're over 400 and I don't even know how many episodes on the show now. And we've switched focus. It used to be I would only interview like gurus and, authors and all this kind of stuff. And we're switching gears now. And I find it more effective if I'm interviewing what I call everyday or mom and pop real estate investors who are actually in it, doing it. And, they haven't reached that pinnacle yet. They're going through it. I just find that it's a lot more enjoyable for me. It's a fun conversation and it's great for them. And it's great for our listeners too, because they're not at this superstar level yet. Does that make sense? So now we've changed our show to a daily show, and I've got some openings coming up in May. My wife and I are taking off for Italy for a couple of weeks. So I'm looking to get about 7 or 8 interviews booked for when I get back in May. So if people are interested in that, I've got a pretty easy URL. I don't know, maybe you can include this under this when this comes in, Diana, but it's daveinterviewyou.com. daveinterviewyou.com. You can check that out. And if you'd like to be interviewed, this is a great way for you to get some of that credibility, that exposure that we've been talking about here today in a very easy to start way. And don't worry, I'm not going to have any ambush questions or anything like that for you. It's a very easy conversational type of interview. So it's a great way to get started if you haven't done very many podcasts yet.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. It was a lot of fun to do it. And so if you guys do want to, Dave will be tagged on this video. So he will be tagged on it. And I'll add it in the description. So if you guys,
yeah, it's easy. It's daveinterviewyou.com. daveinterviewyou.com. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. And I think it is great that you're doing exactly what you're saying, to have kind of find that middle ground, because it is very true where, you look at these like amazing people, but it's so hard to relate to them. Whereas if you start, bring people that are all different levels, or at least, like you said, like maybe a little bit higher than you, but at least it gives you somewhere to strive to. But it's, you also get to see,
Well, and I firmly
what
believe, Diana, we all have our own little secret sauce. We all have something that we do that comes easier to us than to some other people. And what I really try to do is try to extract that from people so that we can provide value to the listeners as well. So it's a great way for you to get some boost your exposure. If you follow my suggestions and you take your interview and you let people in your connections already that you're already connected with know about it, it's a great way to boost your credibility in their eyes. And it's also a really good way to kind of inspire, educate other people who are either just getting started in real estate investing or haven't quite started yet, to kind of help them get going and show them that this is really doable.
Exactly. It just motivates them.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for coming on. The information you gave was so great. It's so helpful. I know the viewers will get a lot of value from what you've provided.
My pleasure, Diana. Thank you so much for having me on your show. It was an absolute pleasure.
Awesome. Thank you everyone for watching. Thank you, Dave, and we'll see everyone in the next episode. Bye, everyone.